that's what everything we're doing is 100% about progress. We're going from one point to the next point, to the next point, to the next point. Upward progression and progress. We're not staying in the same place. We're not just standing still to be standing still. One of the most important things we need to do as we travel, they say travel, through our life, is when we find the inner peace. That means inner peace within ourselves. We are going to also have to be able to emit peace. Therefore, we're going to have to learn how to live life with compassion, allowing grace to guide your path. Thus, our lesson for today. I love that segue. That's good. That's nice. So thank you for joining me. Welcome back to the Hour of Power and Praise with D.E. Wilder. I am D.E. Wilder, and I am living life with power, passion, personal growth, and most of all, purpose. Let us give thanks for all things, especially the small things. Let us celebrate every day's blessing and the beauty of life and all the things, beautiful things that surrounds us. Let's make an effort to celebrate that constant beauty and the quiet miracles that makes life so uniquely precious. Let us not forget to give thanks. It's very important that we always give thanks, especially for the small things, because those are the things that they say are the spice of life. The things that we overlook, take for granted oftentimes, are the things that we should be most thankful for. So, let's get started. The heart of compassion. Welcome, family, friends, and fraternal souls, to another soul-shifting moment. I hope this make a difference in somebody's life. Let's start by taking a deep breath. Exhale and let it out. And let this message meet you right where you are. You see, life has a strange and beautiful rhythm, one that often hides beneath the noise of our daily existence. It whispers in the quiet hour, saying, be kind, be patient, be compassionate. Because compassion is not weakness. It is not soft nor naive. In fact, compassion is power, it's strength. It is the most divine form we can have. The power of having compassion in your heart. When you choose to live with compassion, you are saying to the world, I will not let bitterness become my language. You are saying, even when I've been hurt, I choose healing over hatred. Compassion doesn't mean you allow yourself to be mistreated. It means that you understand that everyone is fighting a battle you cannot see. And in that understanding, you're allowing yourself to rise above. Rise above the lower frequencies of anger, pride, and vengeance. And stand tall in your divine humanity. So let me say this clearly. Compassion is not the act of bending to the will of others. It's the strength of standing in your own truth and still choosing to live and love anyway, despite of. Because every time you respond with compassion, grace opens another door for you. Let's take this moment to reflect for a second. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you extended compassion? Not because someone earned it or deserved it, but because you remembered Simply remember who you are. Because that is grace in motion. That is your higher self speaking to the world. The lessons hidden within life discomfort that we experience all the time. Sometimes compassion, unfortunately, is born out of pain. It grows from the soil of our own brokenness. Because when you've been the one misunderstood, when you've been the one judged, when life has pushed you down to your knees, at that point you learn something deeper. You learn something deeper that stays with you. You learn empathy. You learn tenderness. You learn firsthand what it really means to have compassion. You learn how to look into another's eyes and see not just their actions, but their entire story. Because life will test you to see if you can still love while you are still healing. Life will test you to see if you can still forgive while you are waiting for your very own redemption. And those moments, spiritual family, are very sacred. They are the soul's own classroom. That's where we learn. Where grace begins to whisper, don't let your wounds make you cold. Take a deep breath. You see, the world doesn't need more judgment. It needs more hearts that understand. We're living in a time where egos are loud and empathy feels real. But every time you respond to darkness with love and light, you are shifting the vibration of your own life and emitting it into the universe. That is exactly what compassion does. It heals the spaces that logic cannot reach. So let's look into the mirror of grace. Because if we look into the mirror of grace, grace is compassion dressed in divine timing. Grace steps when you have done all you can do. Grace covers. It covers you when your own strength begins to fade. Grace redirects. It redirects you when you are heading in the wrong direction. And it still allows you, that's the beauty of it, it still allows you to arrive on time. That's the beauty of grace. When you live with compassion, you invite grace to walk beside you, to commune with you. You stop trying to force life. You stop chasing what was never meant for you. And instead you begin to flow with your own true self. Because compassion opens your heart. And grace gives you peace about what you cannot control. Let's reflect for a moment. What if everything didn't work out? And when it didn't work out, it was grace protecting you? What if the people who left were never meant to stay beyond their season? Compassion is how you release them. Release things and still be at peace. Sometimes you don't get closure or you don't get clarity. Sometimes you get to be in a state of grace. It brings you to the point of what we call an inner practice. Living life with compassion is not a one-time choice. This is why we do the work, because it's a daily devotion. Every morning, when you wake up, you are invited to choose compassion again, to look at every reflection and say, today I will walk in love and grace, even if it's hard. And some days, and believe you me, some days it will be hard. Because compassion will ask you to forgive when your pride wants to fight. It will ask you to listen when your ego wants to shout. It will ask you to extend kindness when you feel unseen and unheard. But every time you do, you expand your soul a little more. This is part of growth. Because when you expand, that expansion, that quiet, that invisible growth is what leads you closer to the very peace that you deserve. Brings you to a soulful realization. There comes a moment in everyone's life when compassion has to become a mirror. You start to realize it's not just about how you treat others. It's about how you treat yourself. Are you gentle with your own heart? Do you allow yourself to make mistakes and still believe that you are worthy of grace? Because if you cannot give grace, then how can you receive grace? If you want to live compassionately, you must first be compassionate towards yourself. Self-love, self-care. That means releasing the old shame. That means forgiving yourself for things from the past. That means honoring the journey that shaped you into the current version of yourself. Why? Because grace say you don't have to be perfect to be purposeful. Grace say you are still enough even when you are healing. When you live from that truth, you stop chasing approval and you start living in alignment. That is the true art of compassion. That is the beginning of a peaceful and powerful and purposeful life that we all want to live. Let's take a moment and let's take that in. When you embody compassion, you become a vessel of grace. When grace flows through you, your life begins to move in a divine rhythm. Steady, guided, and full of meaning. So let's take this moment and breathe and allow that to penetrate our soul. Because this is about grace and this is about compassion. First, compassion and grace for our own selves, and then compassion and grace for the broader world. Feel the peace of knowing that your compassion is your superpower, and that your grace, that quiet and unseen force, is already giving you life, guiding your life, and guiding your path. So part one was about awakening the heart of compassion. That chapter, that session is about how we open our heart and we open our spirits. But the next chapter is about now what happens next. What happens when compassion begins to walk with you and within you? When grace stops being a concept and becomes your compass. It's called the movement of grace. Why? Because grace is not loud. Grace is so beautiful. It doesn't arrive with lightning and thunder or applause. It moves quietly, like the dawn of the day, of the dawn that's entering a dark room, softly announcing itself with light. When you live guided by grace, you stop asking yourself things like, why me? And you start saying things like, use me. You stop seeing life as a series of unfair moments, changing our mindset, changing our consciousness. And you begin to recognize that every moment is molding you into something stronger, gentler, and wiser. Grace doesn't erase pain. It's not magic. But it transforms your perception. It's the difference between saying things like, I failed, and saying something like, I learned. It's the wisdom that say, I didn't get what I want, but I realize I got what I needed. That is true grace in motion. Take a breath. Think about this for a second. Where in life do I need to allow grace to move freely again? What door am I trying to force open that in fact grace has already opened? Or grace has already closed? Sometimes there are chapters in our life that we got to close and move on from. Because grace will never compete or battle for control. It waits patiently for your surrender. It waits patiently, bringing you to the point where you are living with grace surrender. To walk with grace means to trust divine timing. And that, my friends, that is going to take courage. It's not going to be simple, because it's going to be in time when things are not happening the way we want, when everything is not in order. But we're going to have to exercise that grace, because trust is not passive. It's actually a spiritual strength. And it's saying things like, I may not understand this season, but I know it has a purpose in my life. And when you live in surrender, you move from a point of anxiety and frustration to a point of confidence and assurance. You stop chasing validation and start embodying the alignment that you seek. Because grace whispers, be still. Because the next step will reveal itself. And if you can quiet that anxiety, that fear long enough to listen, you'll have a moment where you begin to notice that grace has been guiding you all along. It didn't appear. It's already have been there. There's a certain rhythm that grace has within your life, within your system, within your spirit, within your soul. It shows up right after a storm, when the air smells like fresh and new beginnings, when the chaos has cleared. You can finally see what you thought was broke actually is the very thing that is building you. That's how grace works. It turns innings into awakening. It turns wounds into wisdom. It turns silence into sacred clarity. Because it brings you to a point where grace has strength. So let's talk about strength and the strength of grace. The kind that doesn't roar, the kind that doesn't demand attention. Graceful strength is steady, grounded, and certain. It's when you can walk through the fire and still speak with love. It's when you can choose. Well, let me put it this way. It's when you can lose everything that is familiar to you and still believe that the universe is conspiring for your good. Because again, it's a mindset. Oftentimes, a mindset shift. That is what they call grace-filled power. Grace-filled power. It's quiet, confident, and divine. You see, the world tells you that you need to hustle harder. But grace tells you, move in faith, not fear. The world say, control everything. Grace say, flow with me. When you live with grace, you no longer panic in a pause, in a still moment. You learn to rest and rest with the rhythm of grace. Let's reflect again. Where in life have you mistaken waiting for wasting? Because sometimes grace pours us, but it actually is preparing us. The stillness is not punishment, but is in fact preparation. Every delay that grace allows is oftentimes divine redirection. And when the time comes, you'll come to a point where you'll realize and understand why you had to wait, why you had to pause, why things got still, why things got quiet. They call that retrospect. When we are working on ourselves, and when we are living with compassion and grace, remember, first for ourselves, as we grow and we develop, we now learn to extend grace to others. To walk in grace is also to extend it, not just for yourself, but to others who are learning, falling, and trying on their very own. The fact is, people won't always meet you and live up to your expectations. They will misunderstand your heart or fail to appreciate you altogether. And sometimes, some people will take your kindness for weakness. But you must remember, you are not called to control their perception. You only need to maintain your own peace and give people grace. Not because they deserve it, but in fact because you deserve it. Because you freed yourself. Because grace say, I release you. Got to have that release if you're going to have the peace. Grace say, I wish you well, even from afar. Grace say, I'm not carrying this bitterness another day. And that is release. That is letting go. And when you let go and you release, this is where the true healing begins. Grace doesn't mean that you allow individuals or someone to disrespect you. But it means you choose not to let resentment live rent-free in your soul and in your spirit. You can love people and still protect your peace. You can forgive and still walk away. That's grace with boundaries. That's compassion with wisdom. Because what it's going to lead us to is a sacred alignment. That sacred alignment is when compassion and grace meet. They create an alignment. That's when your choices, the things you actually do, matches your spirit. That's when your peace becomes your priority. That's when you realize you don't need to force what is already meant for you. Grace will never let you miss what is yours. If it's meant for you, it will be there for you. And compassion will never let you lose your humanity in the process. Together, they create a life that flows together. Compassion will never let you lose your humanity in the process. Together, they create a life that flows. A life that your soul, that's in your soul, in your spirit, and not just survival. And when you live like that, you begin to see the divine fingerprints on every part of your life journey. You now know you are flowing in the right direction. Let's take a reflective moment. What would your day look like if you trusted grace more than fear? How would your energy shift if you practice compassion even in small unseen moments? These are not abstract questions that you're going to ask yourself. They are invitations, in fact. Invitations to live lighter, to live freer, to live guided. These are invitations to allow ourselves to ascend to the next level and allow for grace to be part of our soul in everyday life. Grace is not just a spiritual concept. It should be a lifestyle. It should be how you move through traffic without losing your pace or your peace. It's how you speak to a person who tests your patience. It's how you forgive yourself when you don't get something right. Grace say you are still growing. Grace say you are still becoming. And when you live with that awareness, you become the beacon of calm in a chaotic world. And in fact, people will feel it. They will feel your energy. They will sense it in your words, in your silence, in your entire energy. Because grace isn't something that you say. It's something that you carry with you each and every day. And if you're carrying the grace, that is the grace-guided path in your life. So hear my voice. Grace will not always make life easy, but it will always make life meaningful. Sometimes grace removes you from what you thought you needed. Sometimes it humbles you. Sometimes it delays you. But always it's protecting you, preparing you, and positioning you. And when you can't see it, you have to learn to trust it. Even when you can't feel it, lean into it. Because you have to understand and believe and have the faith that grace does not fail. I say it again. Grace does not fail. It fulfills. It is its own divine time. If you remember nothing, if you remember nothing else about today's session, please remember this. Grace is your guide. Compassion is your compass. Together, they are the maps to your true higher self. So let's take a recap. Let's recap this journey together, because I wanted to make sure that I leave this message clear about how we're going to live our life with grace and compassion together, and how it works together. This is how it works together. Compassion opens your heart. Grace opens your path. Compassion connects you to humanity. Grace connects you to divinity. Compassion teaches you to love. Grace teaches you to trust. And when the two powerful energies walk hand in hand, you become unstoppable in peace, unshakable in faith, unbreakable in your purpose. You start seeing miracles not as a rare event, but as an everyday occurrence. Because grace is always moving, sometimes softly, sometimes suddenly, but always, believe this, always in your favor. Let's take one more deep breath and exhale slowly. Let's say this quietly together. You can say it out loud, or you can say it to yourself in your own consciousness. Use it as affirmation. I walk with compassion. I move with grace. And I am guided by light. One more time. I walk with compassion. I move with grace, and I am guided by light. Let that truth fill you up. Let it anchor you for whatever lies ahead of you. Because when compassion and grace becomes your way of being, no storm can destroy your peace. And no loss can shake your faith. Why? Because you are aligned. You are protected. You are becoming. You are becoming everything that you were created to be. That's the power of compassion and grace, and when they converge. Thank you for joining me for this soulful journey. Living life with compassion and allowing grace to guide your path. Until next time, keep walking gently. Keep speaking love into life. And let grace continue to write your story. Allow peace and purpose to light your path. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it as well. Remind them that their peace and their grace await. My sincerest intention is that the positive energy and unwavering dedication I aim to project through both my actions and my contributions resonate deeply with each and every individual who hears my voice. My hope is that our shared spirit serves as an uplifting catalyst for our individual growth, to inspire collaborative breakthrough, and ultimately to foster a collective success and a positive impact. The positive impact that we are all seeking in our life journey. Therefore, stay rooted, stay blessed, and stay living life with purpose. I am D. Wilder, and this is the Hour of Power and Praise. And I bid you peace and blessings.